Do you know there's still missiles coming into Israel from Gaza? Mr. Producer, you were down there. There's supposed to be a temporary ceasefire, is there not? There's no ceasefire. The Israelis are playing defense, and the enemy keeps shooting. Israel aborted 2 retaliatory strikes against Iran. They were ready to go. So what happened? Go.
Israel tonight, the Iranian-backed Hezbollah striking Israel from the north. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making his first public comments since Iran's direct attack on Israel. And tonight, what sources are telling ABC News about 2 separate moments since that Iranian attack, when Israel was set to retaliate against Iran, but then stopped. Matt Gutman in Israel again tonight.
Tonight, with Israel vowing to retaliate against Iran, tensions ratcheting higher as the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah launched this attack on an Israeli military base in northern Israel. The drones crashing into this village, then that fireball. Hezbollah releasing this video, POV of the drone in that death dive. 18 wounded, including 14 Israeli soldiers.
Now, this has happened since 300 missiles were fired at Israel. This is Hezbollah, which they don't take a leak in their robes without permission from Iran. Go ahead.
And as the world waits to see how Israel responds to Iran, sources telling ABC News that on at least 2 nights this week, Israel prepared, then aborted retaliatory strikes against Iran. And in his first public comment since Iran's massive missile attack Saturday, a defiant Prime Minister Netanyahu signaling Israel will do everything necessary to defend itself. And tonight, Israel's president revealing new video from October 7th to remind the world that there are still hostages being held by Hamas. You see the kidnapping of Yarden Bibas, the father of the 2 youngest children abducted by Hamas. He's terrified and bloodied. These gripping images of his children, those red-headed toddlers, clutched in their mother's arms as they were taken. And in Gaza, where those hostages are still being held, the Israeli military continuing its relentless...
Hold on a second. Most of these hostages aren't even alive anymore. Why don't they get their damn facts straight? There was supposed to be some kind of trade. The Israelis said, we want 40 of our hostages back. Women, children, and elderly people. And the Hamas said, we don't know where all the people are. But they want hundreds, up to 1,000, including murderers, released in exchange. Israel said, no, we want those 40. Hamas said, no. Now Hamas says we have 27. Not even on that list. We have 27 hostages. They won't say who they are. They won't say how many there are altogether. None of those things. They're murdered. Most of them have been murdered, brutalized. And Joe Biden doesn't even talk about them anymore. That UN resolution that they sponsored and supported uncoupled the release of the hostages from a ceasefire. And so there's Israel losing hundreds of troops, losing over 1,200 civilians in a vicious, brutal massacre by subhuman monsters. They have the enemy surrounded, the remaining battalions and their leaders in Rafah. They know where they are. They're preparing to move the population out. Who moves the population out? I mean, honestly, in World War II, did we say, Dresden, we're going to bomb you, all the people need to leave? Did Harry Truman say, all you people in Hiroshima and so forth, you need to get out of there? Of course not. And the Israelis aren't even trying to kill civilians. And by the way, I posted on my social sites an absolutely brilliant analysis of the lies coming from Hamas. And the analysis was done and said by the calculation of this individual, no more than 5,000 civilians have died. Why? Because Hamas has been asked, where are these 32,000 graves? Where are these people? And so he looks at the numbers and he says, it looks like approximately 21 or 22,000 people have died. And when you subtract the number of terrorists who have been killed by the Israelis, you're down to 4,000 or 5,000 civilians, not 32,000 civilians. And it's utterly ignored, completely ignored. Why? Because unfortunately our media support this. Go ahead.
Assault striking multiple targets in southern Gaza, body bags lining the sand, dozens reported killed over the last 24 hours, including at least 4 children. And Iran tonight vowing a fierce response to any Israeli retaliation. And David, Israeli and U.S. sources telling us tonight that at this point, if Israel decides to retaliate, it's unlikely to do so until after the Passover holiday is over at the end of the month.
That's a little different than when I would do it. I think I'd say, we're used to you attacking us on our major holidays. Now we're going to attack you on one of ours. But, you know, that's just Mark. What do I know? The way the media even reported this, the body bags, it's very, very unfortunate. But who's responsible for that? They're responding to missile strikes. Do you know there's still missiles coming into Israel from Gaza? Mr. Producer, you were down there. There's still missiles coming out of Gaza. There's supposed to be a temporary ceasefire, is there not? There's no ceasefire. The Israelis are playing defense, and the enemy keeps shooting. What about Hezbollah? They're shooting more missiles than ever before into Israel. I don't know if you hear about it, but you don't hear about it on a consistent basis. That's Iran. And so declare victory. Spike the ball, Netanyahu, the United States and Europe is saying. And Netanyahu, just imagine the pressure he's under. He's got people in his own cabinet who want to destroy him and replace him. And as soon as these cabinet meetings are over on military decisions, they leak to the media. They leak to the New York Times. They leak to Axios. This reprobate, this Israeli reporter's name is Barak Ravid, R-E-V-I-D. Just a lousy, self-hating Israeli in my view. They love him at our State Department and our White House because he regurgitates the information they give him. And he hates Netanyahu. What's to hate about Netanyahu? That he wins elections? That he's a great leader for Israel? That without him, they'd have this guy Gantz, a weak, low IQ former general who's desperate to become prime minister, who's left center, pretending he's center right. They summon him to the United States, where they browbeat him, and they conspire with him to leave the government in September so the government falls. Behind him is this guy Lapid, a former TV host. Complete moron. A liberal. They want him too. Biden's trying to impose who he wants on the Israeli people, just as he's trying to put Donald Trump in jail. And I've made this point over and over again. And by the way, I would talk more about that today, except for the fact nothing's going on but jury selection. And as a footnote, it seems to me when you've already had to dismiss 48 people in the jury pool, you got a problem with your jurisdiction there, brother. There is no way that case should be handled in Manhattan. No way that it should be handled by the judge. At least the judge should say, all right, I'm going to stay in this case, but move it to Westchester, which is more evenly divided, even though it's Democrat. You got 48 or 40 some number of jurors who are already dismissed, and he's got 500 people sitting there waiting to pick a jury. Now, what does that tell you?
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.